Welcome back. Now to Bill Cosby. And let me peel back the curtain on the TV booking process for a moment. Because last week I really wanted to talk with Bob Huber, the author of this Philadelphia Magazine article about Mr. Cosby. Huber went into detail about the sexual assault allegations against Cosby and said this: maybe it will amount to nothing, yet there is also the possibility that it will bubble up to destroy him. That was in 2006. His article came and went, mostly ignored, just like the accusers at the time. But the sexual assault claims became national news this month, causing more women to come forward, at least 15 by our count now, and causing media companies and some universities to sever their ties with Cosby. So that brings me back to the booking process. You might have noticed that the Cosby scandal faded from the headlines a bit this week, overtaken by other news. Bob Huber sure noticed. When the booker for this show told him we'd be covering Ferguson most of the hour, he said, "Don't forget about Cosby." He said, "Don't let this story go again." And now Bob Huber joins me from one of my favorite cities, Philadelphia. Bob, good morning.
Brian, hi, how are you?
Tell me about your experience writing this profile of Cosby in 2006. You never actually got to ask him about the allegations. Why is that?
Well, I wasn't able to ask him anything. I got on the story because of Andrea Constadt. She was an administrator working for Temple University women's basketball. Cosby, of course, has Temple University connections. He went to Temple. He's on the board. He's involved with fundraising, so forth and so on. They developed something of a mentor-mentee relationship, and he invited her to his house to talk about her career. And that's when she tells the story of abuse, that Cosby offered her a pill. I think she had a headache or was a little anxious. Cosby said it would make her feel better. She takes the pill, has a drink, and her story is that Cosby then proceeded to molest her. She waited a year. She pursued it legally. It ended up going nowhere legally, but then she filed a civil suit.
And you were covering this in your article.
Suit,
yeah. But then what's interesting to me is you were writing about this, you were doing this big profile, you got invited to spend some time with Cosby, right? But you weren't allowed to ask him questions?
Right, that's the second piece of it. At any rate, in the civil suit, there are these 13 Jane Does. So that was a piece of that I was very interested in. The second leg is that Bill Cosby was doing call-outs. He was going to mostly cities where he was talking very directly and frankly and angrily to mostly inner-city black people about getting themselves together, about taking responsibility, about changing their lives. I was trying to get to Cosby. I couldn't. I talked to his people. He wouldn't talk to me. As a last resort, I went to his house out in Cheltenham and left a note in his mailbox telling him I wanted to talk to him, and I wanted to talk to him about these call-outs. Sort of a last resort that I could say to my editor, well, I tried. But lo and behold, I get a call from one of Cosby's people. They invite me to a call-out to Mississippi, to the Delta out there, and I go out, and it's an event. There are a couple hundred people there. Cosby's giving his speech about raising yourself up from your bootstraps. And I'm invited to a little reception, a little dinner afterwards, and I'm allowed to sit next to Bill Cosby, but I'm essentially allowed to say nothing to him. I can't ask him anything. He won't answer any questions. So I get to Cosby, but there's no actual interview of Cosby. It was one of the most bizarre scenarios in writing a profile. I've written many write-arounds where I don't get to the person I'm writing about, but to get to the person, then have them not talk to me.
Right.
You know, as I see it as a complete control thing. Cosby
I think that's pretty revealing about
the way. See the call out and write about that.
Right, I think that's pretty revealing. Let me ask you about one other piece of this, because there's been so much coverage of Cosby in the past that didn't touch on these allegations. There's also a new book out earlier this year by Mark Whitaker, a former CNN executive. It's a biography of Cosby that really barely touched on this story. He has come out and apologized for that. After my former colleague at the New York Times, David Carr, wrote about this topic, he tweeted at David Carr. Let me put the tweets up on screen. "David, you are right. I was wrong not to deal with the sexual assault charges against Cosby and pursue them more aggressively." He continues, "I am following new developments and will address them at the appropriate time. If true, the stories are shocking and horrible." Bob, what's your take on the fact that this biography, this giant biography, did not include more about these allegations?
Frankly, I think it's unconscionable. These allegations have been out there for almost a decade. they were first broken in Philadelphia by the Daily News, and I was able to get 6,500 words to take a look at the whole ball of wax of Cosby's career and take a pretty direct look at these allegations, talk to some of the women from that civil suit, and there's a litany of stories there in my piece, and there are 13 women who were ready to testify in that civil suit. They didn't because that suit was settled. But all of that's been out for a decade, and for someone to write a book about Cosby and not get into that is absurd to me.
Bob, thank you for being here, and I want viewers to know you did reach out to Mark Whitaker, did not hear back from him about this.